What are you gonna do today, Napoleon?
Whatever I feel like I want to do. Gosh!
Hi. Welcome back. It's been over a year. If you've never seen me before, that's great. You didn't have to know that I just took an unplanned year-long hiatus, but I did. And I'm back, though. I'm really back. I've been... Whatever. It's boring. I don't need to go into my whole journey with, avoiding my podcast and it weighing on me for the entire year and me figuring out how to fucking get back into it without being a total perfectionist. So whatever. Hey, this is Femcel Fatale, and I'm Joe, and I love movies. And on this podcast, I read letterboxd reviews of movies. This podcast is full of spoilers, so do not listen to this if you haven't seen the movie, okay? But I'm going to make this easier on you, and I'm just going to do one movie per episode from here on out. So today we're talking about Bugonia by Yorgos Lanthimos. Before we get into it, just a couple notes. I started a YouTube channel, so if you're just listening to this, you can go find me on YouTube, and it's just me. It's just my face. I'm just talking. So, it's not vital to your listening experience. But, I'm joining the times. I am using my face to beat the algorithm into submission. Yay. And also I have a Substack. So that is gonna be more of a thing. Okay. Bugonia, 2025, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. It all starts with something magnificent. Two conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnapped the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying planet Earth. My review was 5 stars and a like. And I said, good for her. And this is kind of obnoxious. I don't know if I'm going to keep on doing this, but I started putting where and when I saw it. I guess if it was significant or something, I'm not going to say I saw it at Look Cinemas Glendale at their $5 Tuesdays. Maybe it's $6. If you didn't know that was a thing and you live anywhere near Glendale, you can go to Look Cinemas and get a $5 movie. And one time I actually snuck into another movie afterwards. So it was a $2.50 movie. Glendale hack. We love Glendale here, but I'm not going to be writing about that. I'm not going to be saying projected in who knows what at Look Cinemas Glendale on a Tuesday. But here I put Beyond Fest 2025, American Cinematheque at the Arrow. I got to shout out my girl, American Cinematheque. I'm a member, obviously. But yes, I saw it at the West Coast premiere at Beyond Fest closing night. And I'm just going to show you, I got a trading card. So cute, of Yorgos. And on the back, what does it even have on the back? Let's see. It says, Yorgos is a Greek director who's known for his experimental style and unconventional camera movements. He's growing with every film he makes. Cute. It was a great crowd. I mean, everyone was excited to be there. And it's such a funny movie. It was the ideal situation to see it in, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And depending on what crowd you're in can really affect your experience. I wanted to watch it again in preparation for this pod, but I didn't feel like going to the movies again. And so if you subscribe to my Substack, I'll throw this in there. There's a website where you can literally find any movie or show, which is also how I watched Save the Green Planet, which is what this movie is based on. In case you didn't know, it's a 2003 South Korean movie. So we're going to be talking about that as well. But it is impossible to find on the internet. Apparently it was on Canopy until a week ago, and then they took it off of Canopy, which is bizarre because people are trying to watch it now that Bugonia is out. So it's literally impossible to find anywhere except for this website. So that's where I watched Save the Green Planet. And I was like, did someone put Bugonia on here already? And yes, It's the classic, literally someone like put their phone on or like, I don't know, digital camera on a tripod of some sort in the movie theater and filmed the screen. I mean, the sound is really weird. But it was fascinating because the person is in a theater. It's not like a packed theater, but the person who filmed this, there are people there like reacting. And so I got kind of another theater going experience by hearing the reactions of this random crowd, wherever the hell this bootlegger is. Love you. Hearing their reactions, they were definitely not as laughing as much or reacting as much as the crowd that I experienced it with, which was just like a very excited crowd in general. So I want to be aware that my crowd going experience or my movie going experience very much impacted my experience of the movie. But watching it again, I was like, even though the people in this bootleggers theater were hardly reacting to a lot of stuff, I was like, no, I still love this. It was fun to react to this naturally with a lot of people who were reacting the same way that I was, laughing a lot and stuff like that. But I still found it great. I love this movie. I do, if that's not clear. Going into it, I, like many others, did not know that it was based on anything. And it was indeed based on a South Korean movie that came out in 2003 called Save the Green Planet, written and directed by Jang Joon-hwan. And it's fucking bonkers. I'm grateful that I didn't know about this movie before I saw Bugonia, but I'm really grateful that I saw this movie. And I recommend it. It's crazy. It's crazy in a different way than Yorgos is. It's like B-movie level crazy. And extremely unique. Yeah, it's the exact same premise, except it's not a like girl boss who has been kidnapped. It's a like CEO man. And instead of there being two male like friends, it's the main guy and his girlfriend. Here's my little review of Save the Green Planet. I gave it 3 stars. And I said, holy shit, LOL. I'm grateful to Bugonia for bringing me here and also grateful I didn't watch this one first. Honestly, I would have been disappointed in Bugonia's lack of the truly next level bonkersness of the original. But then again, would that really translate? There's an unmatched quality to movies of the early 2000s that can't be replicated now, so maybe it's for the best. Just do yourself a favor and torrent this shit. So to give you a feel of the differences between these movies, I'll read you this review by Mariana Neal, who gave it 4.5 stars. And she started with a quote. "Where were you if you knew everything? Where were you when I was going crazy?" So I watched this because of Bugonia, which is a remake of this film, and I did not expect this to be so much darker. Yes, it's still weird and unhinged. Yes, there is some comedy here too. But where Lanthimos really leans into satire and social commentary, Save the Green Planet really feels like a horrifying thriller that asks the question of what do we do with our pain and suffering? The plot itself is very similar, but the details and the shift in tone are everything. This feels so much more personal, so much more tragic. There's a particular heartbreaking montage in the 3rd act that really brings the story home, and another during the end credits that destroys you. Cried twice. Honestly, some of the comedy felt jarring next to how heavy some of the drama was. I still don't like the ending of this story in either version of it, though the way it was framed felt a bit better here. Even though I'm watching the original after the remake, Save the Green Planet made me like Bugonia a little less because I will always prefer a movie that has heart. So in Save the Green Planet, he also has bees. Bees are a big part of it. But with Bugonia, Yorgos, and the writer, I mean, not just Yorgos, but the writer whose name is Will Tracy, really brought bees more to the forefront, which I really liked. And let's talk about the title Bugonia and what that is, because it sounds like a flower, right? I learned that there is a plant or a plant genus, I believe, called begonia. A Bugonia is a different thing. So I'm going to read from the Wikipedia for Bugonia. Bugonia was a folk practice in the ancient Mediterranean region based on the belief that bees were spontaneously generated from a cow's carcass. By extension, it was thought that fumigation with cow dung was beneficial to the health of the hive. It is possible that Bugonia had more currency as a poetic and learned trope than as an actual practice. The process is described by Virgil in the 4th book of the Georgics. Multiple other writers mention the practice. A detailed description of Bugonia is found in the Byzantine Geoponica. Build a horse 10 cubits high, with all the sides of equal dimensions, with 1 door and 4 windows, 1 on each side. Put an ox into it, 30 months old, very fat and fleshy. Let a number of young men kill him by beating him violently with clubs, so as to mangle both flesh and bones, but taking care not to shed any blood. Let the orifices, mouth, eyes, nose, etc., be stopped up with clean and fine linen, impregnated with pitch. Let a quantity of thyme be strewed under the reclining animal, and then let windows and doors be closed and covered with a thick coating of clay to prevent the access of air or wind. After 3 weeks have passed, let the house be opened and let light and fresh air get access to it, except from the side from which the wind blows strongest. 11 days afterwards, you will find the house full of bees, hanging together in clusters, and nothing left of the ox but horns, bones, and hair. That's Bugonia. Let's try it. Who wants to try it? Let's go. So we also have to talk about CCD, colony collapse disorder. And, well, before we get into that, let's talk about Jesse Plemons for a second. This will all tie back together into why I know about colony collapse disorder. Maybe a lot of people know about it, but I wouldn't have known about it if it wouldn't have known so much about it if it weren't for my high school crush, my unrequited high school crush, who has an uncanny, well, I wouldn't say uncanny resemblance to Jesse Plemons in this movie, but the vibe is absolutely uncanny. So Jesse Plemons, he's never been hotter, honestly. And this character, unfortunately, is exactly my type. Oh my God. Yeah, he was great in this role. Yeah, my high school crush, which he's never going to see this because he has never had social media, has never had a smartphone, obviously. He wasn't a total conspiracy theorist who was, obsessed with aliens or anything like that, but just the vibes of this like reclusive, unshaven, but very eloquent guy on a bicycle, and he has bees, and he's very passionate about the bees. So yeah, my high school crush had bees, and one day they suffered a colony collapse. And that means that literally they were just all dead. And it's actually really, really crazy because it's a phenomenon that still is, the exact cause is unknown. And he was devastated. Like, think about your pets. You come home and your pets are all dead. And like, you just have to be like, oh yeah, that's CCD, and just keep moving on. That was what happened. So I've got a lot of empathy for beekeepers, but I loved that was such a big part of this, that really was thematically woven into this entire film. At the end of the movie, we glimpse what appears to be humans experiencing colony collapse disorder. And this really beautiful, I think, montage of just dead people everywhere in all different sorts of situations. I really loved it. It was moving and funny, and it hit. It hit hard. But then we see that the bees are still alive at the end. Yeah, I thought that was really well done. I enjoyed it. Okay, something else I have to touch on is what I believe are references to the cult Heaven's Gate throughout Bugonia. I thought of this for the first time while watching this movie when at the beginning, Jesse Plemons' character Teddy convinces his cousin, I think earlier I said friend, but he's his cousin, convinces his cousin to do a chemical castration. And I immediately thought of Heaven's Gate because there was a group of men who did get castrated, and it wasn't the chemical kind, it was physical. But yeah, that's the only time I'd ever heard of that happening before. And Heaven's Gate was a UFO cult, basically a alien worshipping cult. So I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of what Heaven's Gate was all about, but you should absolutely go and do your own deep dive. They're fascinating. But they were most known for the mass suicide committed by 39 of its members in 1997. It says the central belief of the group was that followers could transform themselves into immortal extraterrestrial beings by rejecting their human nature, and they would ascend to heaven, referred to as the next level or the evolutionary level above human. The death of Nettles, one of the founders, from cancer in 1985 challenged the group's views on ascension. While they originally believed that they would ascend to heaven while alive aboard a UFO, they came to believe that the body was merely a container or vehicle for the soul, and that their consciousness would be transferred to next-level bodies upon death. So they'd all committed suicide together because it was coinciding with the closest approach of Comet Hale-Bopp in 1997. Just before the mass suicide, the group's website was updated with the message, Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T's crew. And there's a really crazy video you can find on YouTube of the members, all 39 of them, knowing that they're all about to commit suicide, and they're very cheerfully saying goodbye. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a doubt in their mind that they're going to be taken away by a spaceship. All right, now that I've gotten that stuff out of the way that I just had to talk about, let's read some more Letterboxd reviews. So, the review with the most amount of likes for Bugonia on Letterboxd, the most amount of likes by far, is The Guy Who Played the Cop is Really Sexy, written by none other than Stavy Baby 2, which is Stavros Halkias, who played the cop. Okay, let's talk about the cop for a second here. This was a big difference between Save the Green Planet, because in Save the Green Planet, it did get pretty convoluted with there's a whole cop drama going on. It was just too much with the, detectives trying to find the kidnapper and everything. I love that all we got was this one cop who, I mean, he's very funny. He's a great comedian, and I think he was perfect for this role. And apparently he didn't have to audition for it or anything. He was just cast because he was perfect for this part. So I thought this was like a perfectly written part, because I just love there's such great comedy in a character that's just on their own journey, like so in their own mind. They're doing, like in real life, they're in their own head doing something completely different than whatever's going on with our main characters, that just clashes so well with the main storyline. And truly, I thought, amazingly done, with the cop showing up and wanting to use that as a moment to make amends about molesting Teddy as a kid. Like just the most tense moment in the movie, after Teddy's gotten into a fight with Emma Stone, he's bleeding out. It's a great moment. But I think that Teddy's character was also handled geniusly. And aside from him being at his hottest, I mean, he's incredible in this movie. Jesse Plemons, I think he nailed this role. We have empathy for him for a lot of reasons, for his mom being really fucked up, for him being molested, and also because a lot of what he's saying is not that crazy. When he gets into the alien stuff, I mean, we learn later he's actually not crazy, but that's where things go awry. But I mean, most of it is him based on being angered by corporate greed, and he works in like an Amazon warehouse where in the break room there's a portrait hanging on the wall of Michelle being a girl boss, which I loved. That was just so like corporate evil overlords vibes. But I mean, like, we have empathy for him because most of what he's saying is rooted in truth. And also, people like Michelle are essentially aliens to most of us. Let's read this review by Karsten, who gave it 3.5 stars. She says, starting a dialogue is all it takes. Yeah. Also, this way that Michelle speaks feels almost alien-like. I mean, you really just can't tell with these people if there's truly anything going on. Like, you've got to be a billionaire, you have to lack a certain amount of empathy. You have to view the world in a very narcissistic way in order to even get there. I just have to read this little Teddy monologue aloud because it was so good. I know exactly what you're going to say. You're going to say that I'm in some kind of internet-induced auto-hypnotic feedback loop and gatekeepers and norms and all that weak, hegemonic horse shit. But that's precisely the limp dick rhetoric that you've been instructed to counter the human insurgency with. That's the fucking hyper-normalized dialectic by which you've convinced 7.5 billion people that they're not your captives, to keep us believing in the fucking false institutional fucking shibboleths. Okay, let's read this 4-star review by Swag. I was a little surprised to hear Bugonia is a remake of a South Korean film because it feels deeply American and of this time. A pair of cousins, played by Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbus, on the fringe of society, decide to abduct the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, played by Emma Stone, because wild internet conspiracy theories have led them to believe Stone is an alien sent to destroy humanity. The performances are unsurprisingly exceptional, with Stone having the sort of hyper-specificity of the CEO/disruptor persona, and Plemons playing a person whose past trauma, abuse, and anger have driven him down the rabbit hole away from reality. Delbus adds a much-needed bit of humanity to the chaos. The film is as unhinged as you would expect from Yorgos Lanthimos, and while the film is about the loss of truth, it's one of Yorgos's more grounded films. The film zigs and zags in many unexpected ways, but it's a tense, edge-of-your-seat thriller that explores how dehumanizing our society is, with corporations reducing their employees to quotas and outputs, and their customers to opportunities and liabilities. It's no surprise the corporation has shades of Amazon and the Sackler family's Purdue Pharma. This dehumanization, combined with abuse, trauma, and mental illness, create the circumstances for broken people to be pushed over the edge, and the deterioration of our shared truth, ironically, in the search for meaning. Well said. Damn. And now a 3-star review by Sean Chandler. Bugonia technically delivers. Immaculate craft, top-tier performances, and Yorgos doing Yorgos. The problem for me is I'm just not on his wavelength. The particular brand of deadpan absurdity and prickly satire doesn't click for me the way it does for his fans. That said, Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are magnetic. Their cat and mouse dynamic, a conspiracy crank convinced a polished executive is an alien bent on destroying Earth, gives the movie a propulsive hook. Scene to scene, watching them outmaneuver each other is a blast purely on performance energy. Where it lost me was repetition. Where it lost me was it often hangs on the same beat. He's convinced, she's denying, the third wheel squirms. The dopey sidekick humor feels familiar, like a riff I've seen elsewhere, Wes Anderson 20 years ago, and the messaging ultimately telegraphs where the endgame has to land. I respect the film more than I love it. It's beautifully made, slyly acted, and will crush for Yorgos faithful. For me, the crescendo felt inevitable rather than revelatory. Admirable craft, limited personal connection. End of review. I just want to comment on when he said the crescendo felt inevitable rather than revelatory. So I saw the alien thing coming, but I wasn't sure. And I loved the way that Yorgos played it out. Like there's moments where it really gives it away that she's an alien, and yet until the last possible moment, we're still in denial that that could actually be the truth. Because I remember my first thought of it was when he comes back after giving his mom the antifreeze, and Michelle's knee is fine, or she's just standing up, and she gives him this whole speech about the Andromedans, and it's actually exactly the same as in Save the Green Planet, which is basically that the Andromedans claim that they started this human race and basically fucked it up by giving it this suicidal gene that's then been reproduced, and there's a suicidal nature to the human race that will destroy its own species and its own planet. And so the Andromedans are there to try to save them. That's what they claim, at least. But then you're really just, she's like very much seems like she's just coming up with this on the fly, and it's just very silly, and it goes on and on and on until finally when she jumps out of the ambulance, like, oh, that was amazing. She's running through the streets looking insane. She's such an incredible physical actor with the bare feet, bald head, limping, running through the streets, looking up at the moon. And then she's taken into the spaceship and reveals that the hair thing is real. Oh my God, that was incredible, incredible design. Costume designer Jennifer Johnson, great work. And also production designer James Price. Those reveals were amazing. And when we reveal what the spaceship looks like, and it is exactly what Teddy made the diorama of, I mean, that was great. Okay, yeah, quickly through the credits. Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, screenplay by Will Tracy, cinematography by Robbie Ryan, edited by Yorgos Mavropsaridis, and music composed by Yurskin Fendrix. We got to talk about this score. Fucking incredible score. And I watched a Bugonia panel with like all the main people from this movie, and the main cast plus Yorgos. He was asked about the score, and Yorgos said that he did not allow Fendrix to read the script or talk to anyone about it. He also said that usually Yorgos said that in the past his method with working with composers is that he'll have them read the script and start working on the score before he started the edit. So then he edits to the score that they make, not the other way around. But this time he even had Yurskin Fendrix start working on it without knowing anything about the film, except he gave him 4 words to work with: bees, spaceship, basement, and Emily Bald. I didn't know that apparently Emma Stone, she really goes by Emily. Her stage name is Emma Stone. But he counted Emily Bald as 1 word. So that is what Yurskin Fendrix went off of, and it's incredible. And I really loved how quiet this film was, except for when it's not. And when it's not, it is bombastically, gorgeously loud. But it is so quiet for so much of it. Let's read a 4.5-star review by Kit Laser. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. We'll make a great "Oh, we're so fucked" double feature with Eddington. It's often hilarious, but it's the sort of rueful chuckle you deliver as you pour another glass of whiskey, knowing that when the sun rises, the troubles you're trying to drown away will still be barreling down upon you like the 4 horsemen. Bugonia presents a deceptively satisfying theme of class struggle. Lecherous corporations led by heartless CEOs feed on the working class like malignant tumors. The worker bees, essential to life but easy to manipulate, are dying out. Alas, too many have sussed out the problem, only to have their brain rot conspiracies drive them far from an actual solution. What I love about this movie is its attempt to empathize, at least, and acknowledge the suffering and trauma that forged those tinfoil hats. The score is magnificent, sounding a mockingly triumphant opera as background to the farce. We will, no doubt, cheer for the apocalypse, mistaking it for deliverance. It's a misanthropic, sad movie with, would you believe it, yet another potentially career best turn from both Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone. I hate it. I loved it. And now a 4.5-star review by Bruno. Starts with a quote. "You can't beat me because you are a loser and I'm a winner, and that's fucking life." I walked out of this one completely buzzing. Yorgos Lanthimos does it again, crafting something so confidently strange and yet so human that I couldn't stop grinning the whole time. He's one of my favorite directors working today, and he never misses, but Bugonia might just be one of his best. The story follows two paranoid men who kidnap a powerful CEO because they're convinced she's an alien planning to destroy the world, and somehow Yorgos turns that ridiculous premise into something genuinely profound. The direction is hypnotic, every frame soaked in that Yorgos rhythm where discomfort and humor live in perfect harmony. The visuals are gorgeous in that Yorgos fashion, and the camera moves in ways I haven't seen before. The score hums beneath it all like a slow fever, giving every bizarre moment a pulse. Emma Stone is once again completely electric, the kind of performer who can make a half smirk feel like a full monologue, and Jesse Plemons matches her beat for beat. He's on another level here, fully disappearing into this deluded, tragic man who somehow manages to be both terrifying and heartbreakingly sincere. The tone is a wild mix of satire and sincerity, a paranoid fever dream about power, control, and the lies we build to make sense of the world. It's Yorgos doing what he does best, pulling the rug out from under reality and making you laugh while you hit the floor. Ending is absolutely bonkers, but I say it fits well into the film Yorgos style. I loved every beautiful and bizarre second of it. And now a 3-star review by Edwin. I was beginning to really warm up to Yorgos Lanthimos' style. Dogtooth and The Lobster both hit that sweet spot for me. Bizarre, haunting, and strangely emotional beneath their absurd surfaces. So naturally, I was very excited to check out Bugonia. Unfortunately, I felt disappointed at the end of it. I know I'm in the minority here, especially considering how many of you guys are praising this movie, but this one just didn't do it for me. It's a fascinating world, but one I never felt truly invested in. To his credit, the movie's premise is a perfect playground for his usual obsessions. It's another offbeat social experiment dressed up as a black comedy. This time it's about two men who kidnap a woman they believe to be an alien plotting humanity's demise. Yorgos thrives on moral unease, and here he toys with the tension between paranoia and righteousness, truth and delusion. It's the kind of setup that could easily spiral into satire, horror, or tragedy, and Bugonia flirts with all three. What the movie does well is provoke questions about who the real monsters and tyrants are. Is it the supposed alien who represents power, privilege, and control? Or is it the men who claim to be saving humanity but act out of fear and resentment? Yorgos blurs the line between savior and oppressor, asking us to examine what it truly means to be human. The camera's shifting perspective, sometimes gazing up at the captors and other times down on the captive, visually mirrors that uncertainty. By the end, I was left unsure who to root for or even what side I've been on all along. The performances, especially from Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, are undeniable. Plemons continues to perfect that eerie stillness of his, the way he can make silence feel threatening. Stone, once again, proves she understands Yorgos' rhythm. The movie's minimalist structure allows their faces to carry much of the emotion, and his framing gives them plenty of space to breathe and unsettle. Still, for all its sharp performances and thematic ambition, Bugonia left me oddly detached. There's anger here, touching on greed, class, alienation, and human selfishness, but it feels more intellectual than emotional. There were some disturbing sequences here, yet I still wasn't provoked as much as Dogtooth or even The Lobster. Instead, I admired it from a distance. Bugonia raises big questions, but they never quite land, leaving the movie feeling emotionally distant to me. What's fascinating, though, is seeing a Greek filmmaker like Yorgos turn his gaze toward America. Bugonia becomes a kind of foreign autopsy of the American psyche. Our conspiracies, our distrust of science, our contradictions about freedom and control. There's something undeniably compelling about that outside perspective. Yorgos captures the peculiar way American optimism can morph into paranoia and how our hunger for independence can so easily turn into isolation. He seems both horrified and amused by these contradictions. Rather than treating them as flaws, he presents them as defining features of a culture obsessed with spectacle and self-delusion. In the end, Bugonia is an interesting movie. It is sharp in moments, but also wanders in others. However, this is an unmistakably Yorgos Lanthimos movie. It's clever, meticulously crafted, and just odd enough to keep you thinking about it after it ends. I only wish it reached deeper, that its ideas carried more emotional weight beneath all the precision and irony. I'm open to rewatching this, and maybe then I'll give it the ranking it deserves. Okay, let's read a half-star review by Reagan Rubin. If you make a film that's essentially about radicalization through online conspiracy theories, but then you fictionalize and generalize the conspiracy theory that much, lest you end up offending any adherent of those conspiracy theories, I guess, isn't that the moment you realize that you maybe don't really have anything worthwhile to say about any of this? It's another one of those recent US art house-ish blockbusters that takes a buffet of hot topics of current social critiques and then systemically disconnects all of them from any real-life political position or social context, but adds lots and lots of violence, so that you think you have something that has the daring, transgressive feel of a satire, but actually makes absolutely no point about anything whatsoever. So no matter what radical ideology fried your brain, you can go watch the film, be entertained by the energy and crassness of it all, and think it's really about how dumb all the others are. Basically, as cynical as filmmaking can get, and that's not even factoring in that it plays neurodivergence, weight, and child abuse purely for laughs. Oh, and the laziest of all twists was too obvious to not happen, but still didn't make any sense when it did, just eroded any semblance of a point in this film postured to make for 2 hours before. Think it was all a dream, but worse. To add insult to injury, 80% of this film is also completely stagnant and unimaginative, SRS blocking of endless yes, no dialogues. But hey, first ever Letterboxd review, so yay. Now a 4-star review by Emily Yoshida. There have been 2 high-profile 2025 auteur films that attempt to distill the hopeless information environment of the current moment. Ari Aster's Eddington is notable for the way it uncannily manages to recreate the gut-queasy feeling of doom-scrolling in the summer of 2020 in a way that feels genuinely novel. No resolutions in sight, no satisfying symmetry, just another brain-breaking crisis, pushing the last one out of the way ad nauseum. I admired Eddington and enjoyed thinking about it in the days after I saw it way more than I enjoyed watching it, even as I started to intuit that the frustrations were the point. Bugonia is, I'd argue, the more successful movie of the two, with more classic Hollywood catharsis on offer, so maybe that makes it more dishonest in the end? I don't know. Aster produced this one, so he wins this arbitrary competition I've set up no matter what. It helps itself with its limited scope, with what feels and possibly is a battle for the future of humanity playing out in a grimy basement on the outskirts of Anytown, USA, played, as is usually the case these days, by Atlanta. Perhaps we've seen enough faux-class commentary cinema in the last 5 years that we're ready to roll up our sleeves and figure out which poles of our political landscape Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbus are all meant to speak for in this allegory. But, pleasantly, it's clear that screenwriter Will Tracy is operating at a more sophisticated level here than he was in 2022's empty-headed The Menu. There are many post-American century bingo squares called out here. Big Bad Pharma, girl bosses, doing your own research, the enshittification of everything, the warm bath of nostalgia, and yet they're blended and blurred in such a lived, yet no less overwhelming way as to never feel capital T topical. The experience of watching this play out is the tragic facts of Teddy's life slowly just pile up, one coloring our understanding of the next, like the orange and red goo on the movie poster. And by the time it's made abundantly clear that he was molested as a child by a neighborhood cop that he still has to smile and wave at every fucking day, you realize there is no way this guy, and by extension a lot of guys, could ever win. He's reacting to the information he's being given in the course of his life, and the information all sucks ass. You could call this narrative onslaught, as much of Lanthimos' filmography, bleak or punishing or abject, but it's never not true. I haven't seen Save the Green Planet, so I didn't know how this thing was going to end, but it feels downright merciful that it ended the way it did. For one thing, Teddy needed some validation, even posthumously. The final sequence, the end of the Anthropocene in the blink of an eye, is one of the most astounding things I've seen at the movies this year. It goes on long enough that I started to feel a dark, uneasy admiration for Lanthimos could make the death of 7 billion people feel like a happy ending. But that's the dream of the conspiracy theorist, right? At one point, Stone's Michelle says something to Teddy along the lines of, "You want me to be killing the bees so you have something to blame me for." The sick thing about how we go about having a dialogue, LOL, in both the darkest corners of the internet and in the mainstream is that at a certain point, we're all looking for the worst possible thing to happen, if only so that we can say we were right. End of review. A quick, silly 4-star review by Kevin T. Porter. Bazinga! Weirdly, this movie ends with Emma Stone looking at the camera, tearing up a picture of the Pope and saying, "Fight the real enemy." I'm going to end this episode with an appropriate review, 4.5 stars, by Aurora. I mean, it could have been worse. He could have started a podcast. Well, that's all I got for you today on this episode of Femme Cell Fatale. Make sure to follow me on Letterboxd at Femme Cell Fatale, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bugonia. So feel free to find me on Instagram, which is also Femme Cell Fatale, and my Substack, and whatever. I hope you liked this. I'm a little rusty. I'm also new to the filming thing, so I apologize. I'm looking at myself too damn much. It's like when I'm on Zoom, it's so hard to not be overly concerned with if I look okay. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm back. I'm gonna get less rusty and more coherent, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for listening or watching. I deeply appreciate you. So that's it. Bye.